The nurse handed me a note that wasn't meant for me. 3 words. Written in a hurry. And the moment I read them, I knew my life wasn't about to break. It already had. Check the camera. At first, I thought it was a mistake. Hospitals are full of mistakes. Wrong charts, wrong rooms, wrong assumptions. But the way she avoided my eyes told me this wasn't one of those. My wife had survived the accident. That's what everyone kept saying. Lucky. Miracle. Second chance. She was lying just a few rooms away, sedated, breathing through a machine. And I was standing in a hallway that smelled like antiseptic and burnt coffee, holding a note that made no sense. Because cameras don't matter when someone almost dies. Unless what they caught is worse than the accident itself. I folded the note and put it in my pocket. I didn't ask questions. I didn't follow the nurse. Not yet. I told myself I was imagining things. That stress does strange things to the mind. That love makes you paranoid. But deep down, something had already shifted. Because no one slips you a note in a hospital by accident. And no one warns you to check a camera unless they've seen something you weren't meant to. I didn't know it yet, but that note was the first lie exposed. Let me explain how I ended up in that hospital hallway. I was sitting in the trauma wing with my wife when a nurse slipped a note into my hand that quietly cracked my world in half. It happened just after 2:46 a.m. early Thursday morning, under the buzzing fluorescent lights of Harborview Regional Medical Center. I'd been in room 214 for almost 70 hours straight, barely leaving the narrow chair beside the bed. I watched my wife, Lena, sleep under layers of medication, her breathing slow and uneven. Both of her legs were suspended in thick plaster casts, lifted off the mattress by metal frames, cables, and pulleys fixed at exact angles the orthopedic surgeon had specified. Steel bars ran above her bed like scaffolding. Weights hung silently at the ends of ropes. White plaster encased her legs from hip to ankle. According to the incident report, Lena had been driving home from her brother's place late Sunday night when her brakes failed near a curved stretch of Riverbend Parkway. She'd hit into the concrete divider going just over 40 miles an hour. The Honda Pilot we bought 4 years ago was totaled on impact. She's lucky to be alive. Everyone kept saying that. Doctors. Nurses. Even the insurance adjuster on the phone. Lucky to be alive. But no one told me what that would cost us. Dr. Matthew Cole, early 50s, head of orthopedics, had shown me the x-rays the morning after the accident. He traced the fractures slowly with his pen, explaining each break with clinical precision. Bilateral femur fractures. Severe trauma to both tibias. Possible nerve damage that could mean permanent mobility issues. Your wife will need extensive rehabilitation, he said. 7 months before we know the full picture. A year before she might walk normally. Possibly longer. And that's if everything goes right. I remember lowering myself into the consultation chair, my vision narrowing, the room feeling suddenly too small. What does she need from me? I asked. Support. Patience. Changes at home, he replied. Ramps. Grab bars. Possibly a medical bed on the first floor. Our house flashed through my mind instantly, the narrow 3-story brick townhouse my parents left me years ago. Steep staircases. Tight corners. Bedrooms all on the top floor. Whatever it takes, I said. And I meant it. For nearly 3 days I barely left Lena's side. My firm, Holloway & Finch, where I'd worked as a corporate attorney for nearly a decade, told me to take as much emergency leave as I needed. My supervisor sent flowers and said not to worry about deadlines. I learned how to monitor 4 drips, how to help nurses reposition her every few hours to prevent bed sores, how to handle the bedpan situation with as much dignity as possible for both of us. I kept the cast dry during sponge baths. I survived on burnt coffee from a second-floor vending machine and the stubborn belief that love could keep me awake forever. Sometime after 3:20 a.m., Lena moaned softly. I snapped awake immediately, my body already moving before my mind caught up. Hey, I whispered. You okay? Do you need something? Her eyes fluttered open. Those hazel eyes I fell in love with 8 years ago at a friend's backyard cookout now looked glassy, dulled by painkillers and exhaustion. Evan, she murmured. This is too much for you. You should go home. Sleep in a real bed. I forced a smile, even though my back was screaming from 3 nights in a hospital chair. You're my wife, I said. I'm not going anywhere. She hesitated, then asked quietly, Where's Maya? Maya, Lena's cousin, had been staying with us for weeks, between jobs, helping however she could since the accident. Running errands. Bringing food. Handling paperwork with the insurance company. She went back to the house to make that vegetable soup you like, I said. She'll bring it in the morning. Lena nodded faintly and closed her eyes again. That's when the door opened. Rachel Donovan, the overnight charge nurse, stepped in with her medication cart. Mid-40s. Calm voice. 19 years at Harborview, according to her badge. For the past 2 nights, she'd been looking at me strangely, not suspicious exactly. More like she'd already decided something and didn't know how to say it. Mr. Brooks, she said quietly. Time for medication. I stood and stretched, stepping away from the bed. Rachel checked Lena's vitals with quick efficiency: temperature, blood pressure, oxygen levels. She ran her fingers carefully along the edges of the casts, checking for swelling or discoloration. Her movements were professional, but her eyes kept flicking toward me. Then she turned. "Could you help me out?" she asked softly. "We're low on saline bags up here. Could you grab a couple from the main nurse's station?" It struck me as odd. Nurses usually handled their own supplies. But exhaustion dulled my instincts. "Sure," I said. As I passed her, something pressed into my palm. Folded. Deliberate. Rachel lifted a finger to her lips. My stomach dropped. I walked down the empty hallway past silent elevators, my legs suddenly unsteady. I found a dark family waiting room, sank into one of those awful plastic chairs, and unfolded the paper with hands that wouldn't stop shaking. 3 lines. Careful handwriting. "Don't come at night. Check the security cameras. Between 12:30 and 2:30 a.m. She's fine when you leave." My vision went spotty. "She's fine." I read it again. And again. I stared at my wedding ring. At the hospital bracelet on my wrist. At the coffee stains on my shirt. Then details I'd ignored started clicking into place. Lena refusing to let me touch the cast. Keeping her phone hidden under her pillow. Groaning louder whenever Maya visited, but relaxing when it was just me. I told myself it was trauma. Medication. Pride. But what if I'd been wrong? I destroyed the note in the restroom, tore it into tiny pieces, flushed them away. Splashed cold water on my face and stared at my reflection. Don't panic. Get proof first. I called Daniel Cruz, my college roommate turned cybersecurity consultant, from the stairwell. "It's almost 4, he said groggily. "Is everything okay?" "I need a favor," I said. "A big one." Silence. "How big?" "I need security footage. Hospital footage." Another pause. "That's serious." "I know." The footage arrived just after sunrise. I sat alone in my car in the parking structure, engine off, phone charging. I stared at the link for several minutes, knowing whatever I was about to see would change everything. I tapped play. And that's when I saw something that turned my entire life upside down. But that part comes next. If you think you already know what's really going on here, tell me your theory in the comments. I read every single one. At 1:22 a.m., the door swung open. Maya walked in carrying 2 plastic bags, one from a diner, the other from a wine shop. "Evan gone?" Maya asked. I couldn't hear her voice, but her lips were clear as day. Lena laughed, smooth, confident. Nothing like the fragile little sounds she made when I was around. "Yeah. He went to crash in the on-call room for a few hours. God, I was starving." Maya pulled out containers. Roasted wings from Bella's kitchen, potato salad, garlic rolls, and 2 bottles of Hogarden. They ate, chatted, laughed, acting like it was a casual girls' night rather than a hospital room where Lena was supposed to be recovering from catastrophic injuries. I kept an eye on the timer. At 1:58 a.m., something between them shifted. Their posture changed first. They leaned closer, shoulders angling inward, voices lowered. Maya pulled her phone from her pocket and tilted the screen toward Lena. Lena wiped grease from her fingers with a napkin, glanced down, then nodded slowly. She said something short that made Maya grin. Then Lena's expression hardened. She spoke again, longer this time. Several sentences. Maya stopped smiling and listened closely, her head tilted, eyes locked on Lena's face. I couldn't hear a word. The angle was wrong to read their lips. But I watched Lena gesture, toward the window, toward the door, then down at her legs, trapped in that fake prison of plaster, steel, and pulleys. Whatever Lena was explaining, Maya agreed without hesitation. At 2:16 a.m. they cleaned up fast. Maya gathered everything, containers, bottles, napkins, and shoved it back into the plastic bags. Lena carefully repositioned herself in the bed, pulling the blanket up, arranging her arms, her face slackening into practiced stillness. Eyes closed. Breath shallow. Maya slipped out at 2:21 a.m. Lena didn't move again until 2:53 a.m., just minutes before I returned. The video ended. I sat alone in my car in the underground garage and watched it again. Then a third time. Then a fourth. Each replay stripped away another layer of denial. My wife. My wife of 5 years. The woman I'd fed, lifted, protected. The woman I'd been terrified of losing. She had been acting the entire time. But why? I didn't go back to the hospital. Not yet. Instead, just after 7:30 a.m., I drove home through quiet streets slick with early spring rain and let myself into the townhouse my parents left me. 3 stories. Original details. High ceilings. Hardwood floors that creaked in the same familiar places they always had. This was the house where I grew up. Where I brought Lena after we got married. Where we talked about kids. In the current market, it was worth well over $2 million. Location. History. Structure. My inheritance. My anchor. I went straight to my home office on the 2nd floor and pulled the bookshelf forward, revealing the wall safe behind it. Inside were the deed, insurance policies, investment statements, passports, emergency cash. Everything was still there. But for how long? I locked the office door and started going through Lena's things. I wasn't proud of it, but the video had erased whatever trust one had left. Her laptop was in the guest room where Maya had been staying. Password protected. I tried the usual patterns, birthdays, anniversaries. Nothing. Then I tried Parkway 2018. Our street name. The year we got married. It unlocked. Her email was already open. Most of it was harmless: receipts, subscriptions, notifications. Then I saw a folder labeled DP. Inside were emails between Lena and a man named Darren Price. Dates stretching back almost a year. The first message stopped my breath. Per our discussion, your outstanding balance is $46,800. Interest accruing at 21% annually. We need a payment plan or collateral immediately. Lena's reply followed minutes later. I'm working on it. I have assets. I just need time to liquidate. Give me 90 days. More emails followed. The numbers climbed. $56,000. $71,000. $94,000. The most recent message was dated 3 days before the accident. Final notice. Balance now $198,000 with fees and interest. 2 weeks. Payment or enforcement. Her response was sent at 11:38 p.m. that same night. I have a plan. There's a property, an inherited townhouse worth close to $2 million. It's in my husband's name, but I can convince him to sell. The accident happened tonight. Timing is perfect. He's emotional. Vulnerable. I'll tell him we need the money for long-term care. Once it sells, you're paid in full. I get a clean start. I read it 3 times. The accident happened tonight. Timing is perfect. The brakes hadn't failed. She had done it on purpose. My vision tunneled. I had to sit down. But there was more. Another folder. Labeled medical. Inside were emails between Lena and Dr. Matthew Cole. They weren't professional. They were friendly. Familiar. Coordinated. Thanks for the dramatic consultation. He bought it completely. Keep emphasizing permanent damage. The scarier it sounds, the faster he'll liquidate assets. Dr. Pierce replied. Happy to help, but we need to stay careful. If anyone audits the imaging too closely, the inconsistencies will stand out. Keep me insulated. My entire body went cold. The fractures. The prognosis. The fear. All of it had been manufactured. I took screenshots of everything. Every email. Every file. Then I called the one person I trusted completely, Elaine Foster, my managing partner. She met me at a quiet cafe across town just before noon. She brought someone with her, a woman in her 50s with sharp eyes and a leather briefcase. This is Marianne Lopez, Elaine said. Family law. Financial scheme. 25 years. I showed them everything. The footage. The emails. The financial trail. Marianne listened without interrupting. When I finished, she closed her notebook. Your wife has committed multiple serious offenses, she said calmly. Insurance, financial deception. Financial conspiracy. Potential reckless endangerment. And attempted spousal asset financial scheme. What do I do? First, we protect you. Today. We file an emergency motion freezing all joint accounts and blocking any transaction involving the house. Second, Elaine added, we build an airtight case. Marianne nodded. We'll need more footage. Financial records. Medical discrepancies. I can get the footage, I said. Good, she replied. Every night. Establish a pattern. Elaine leaned forward. You also need to decide how far this goes. I didn't hesitate. I want everything exposed. Marianne nodded once. Then we'll need a private investigator. That's when she mentioned Frank Dalton. Former homicide detective. 20 years on the force. And one more thing. These lenders, she warned. They don't like losing money. Be careful. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. This was really happening. That afternoon, Frank Dalton walked into my office, rain still clinging to his coat. I've reviewed what you sent, he said. It's strong. But we'll need more. Especially on the lender. I nodded. Because whatever this was, it was bigger than I'd imagined. And I had a feeling the worst part was still ahead. If you think you understand what Lena was really planning, or who else might be involved, share your thoughts. I'm reading every comment. What exactly do you need from me? I asked. Access to your wife's phone records, email archives, any messages between her and Darren Price. I'll need to set up surveillance, watch who comes and goes at the hospital, track their movements, figure out Price's network, Frank Dalton said. That's not allowed, isn't it? I asked, voice tight. Frank gave a small, humorless smile. I'm a licensed private investigator. Everything I do is within legal boundaries to protect a client from financial wrongdoing. Your wife has no reasonable expectation of privacy in her criminal activity. How long will this take? 72 hours for complete documentation, he said. Can you keep your routine at the hospital without tipping her off? That part was brutal. Pretending. Acting like the devoted husband while knowing what I knew. Yeah, I said. I can do it. For the next 3 days I returned to the hospital each morning, sat by Lena's bed, held her hand, brought magazines, soup, flowers, and watched her act. That's what it was, a performance. Once you knew the cues, it was obvious. The groan when a nurse walked in. The exaggerated pained expressions whenever anyone checked on her. The way she hid her phone and twitched when I returned unexpectedly. Maya visited every afternoon, exactly 45 minutes, always bringing snacks. Frank's team captured every visit, every exchange, every subtle signal. On the third night, Lena brought up the townhouse. It was 2:12 a.m. We were alone. She'd been sleeping but woke when I shifted in the chair. "Evan," she said softly. "We need to talk." "What about?" I asked. "Dr. Cole, he was honest today." Her voice trembled, performance level trembling. "It's worse than he told you. I made him give me the truth." My stomach sank. How much worse? I might never walk normally. Might need a wheelchair. First floor bedroom. Extensive modifications. Full-time care for 6 months at least. Her voice faltered. Tears ran down her cheeks. Real tears. Impressive. The bills? Over $180,000 already. Insurance caps at $100,000. Dr. Cole suggests experimental treatments. We're looking at another $200,000 minimum, probably more. I kept my face neutral. "Evan, I know you're going to say it, we'll figure it out. But we don't have that kind of money," she said, eyes wet. "Your salary covers life, not catastrophe. My job? 3 months max, otherwise we lose income and drown in debt." She looked at me with eyes glistening, deliberate, calculating. "We need to sell the townhouse," she whispered. There it was. The townhouse. I said nothing. I watched her. The 4 lines still taped to her arm, the fake pain in her movements, the matching wedding ring, all symbols of the performance. "Please," she said, squeezing my hand. "Think about it. Really think." I stared at our joined hands. I said, "I'll think about it." Relief washed over her face. "Thank you. That's all I ask." She fell back into bed, or pretended to. I stayed until morning, felt nothing. At 6:15 a.m. Frank called. "We have everything," he said. "Complete documentation. Darren Price is exactly who we suspected. He runs a loan operation out of a front business in Bridgeport. 4 associates handle enforcement. Photographed meeting your cousin Maya twice this week at a diner in Wicker Park. The operation is substantial. Federal authorities is involved. Detective Martinez has coordinated with their task force. Your wife's activity fits their pattern. They're interested." "What now?" I asked. "We spring the trap today. Are you ready?" 10 minutes later, Marianne Lopez called. "Evan, divorce papers filed this morning. Emergency protective order for your assets. The townhouse is protected. Lena cannot sell, transfer, or encumber it without court approval. Complaint filed with Illinois Department of Financial and Professional Regulation against Dr. Matthew Cole. Copies sent to Detective Martinez." "What about criminal charges?" "That's your choice," she said. "Financial scheme, insurance deception, conspiracy. Public. Messy. Painful. Once we start, there's no going back. Detective Martinez wants to be present when you confront Lena. FBI will leverage her testimony against Price's network. Cooperate and she might reduce charges. Refuse and she faces the full law." At 2:47 p.m., exactly 1 week after the folded note from Nurse Rachel Donovan, I walked into room 214 at Harborview Regional Medical Center. Lena was alone. Maya had left 20 minutes earlier, confirmed by Frank's team. "Evan." Lena's face lit up, carefully crafted joy. "You're early. Everything okay?" "No," I said calmly. "We need to talk about the townhouse, your medical expenses, everything." She tried to sit straighter, wincing dramatically. "Of course. Did you make a decision?" "I did," I said, pulling my phone from my pocket and placing it on the tray table. I opened the video Daniel Cruz had sent me. "What is this?" she asked. "Just watch." Grainy black and white security footage filled the screen. Timestamp visible. Lena's face serene, then alert. Legs moving. Maya arriving with food and drinks. The expressions on Lena's face, confusion, recognition, panic, calculation, flashed in rapid succession. "Evan, I can explain." "No," I said. Voice even. "You can't." I played the cards. The video, her emails with Darren Price about $198,000 in high-risk debt, her correspondence with Dr. Matthew Cole about faked injuries, her plan to sell my parents' house, surveillance of Maya, financial records, expert assessments, everything documented. The door opened. Detective Sarah Martinez stepped in. Early 40s, CPD badge, calm, precise. Behind her, Frank and a man I didn't recognize. FBI badge, suit, serious expression. "Mrs. Brooks," Martinez said. "I'm Detective Sarah Martinez, CPD Financial Scheme Division. This is Special Agent Thomas Rivera, FBI. We'd like to ask about Darren Price and your involvement with illegal lending operations." Lena went white. "I want a lawyer." That's your right. But you have a one-time chance to cooperate. Price's organization is under federal investigation. Your testimony could reduce charges for insurance financial scheme and conspiracy. Agent Rivera stepped closer. You're under investigation for insurance financial scheme, conspiracy, false statements, and attempted financial manipulation. Serious federal and state charges. Significant long-term sentencing time unless you cooperate. Lena turned to me, desperation replacing calculated performance. Evan, please, we can fix this. I made mistakes, but we're married. You faked injuries to manipulate me into selling my parents' house, I said quietly. You conspired with a corrupt doctor. Ran up $198,000 in risky debt. You thought you could steal from me while I suffered. While you laughed with your cousin eating roasted wings from Bella's kitchen. Tears ran down her face. Real ones. Evan, you were wrong about one thing, she whispered. You said I'd always sacrifice. But the moment you assumed the townhouse was yours, you were wrong. The door opened again. 3 men entered, Price's associates, the same photographed with Maya. Dead eyes, expensive watches. They froze, scanning the police presence. Mrs. Brooks, we heard you were ready to discuss payment, the lead said. Detective Martinez stepped forward. Gentlemen, step outside. Active investigation. Dead eyes paused, looked from Badge to FBI, then at Lena. Guess you're not getting that money? He left. Price will be disappointed, he added. Lena collapsed. The performance was over. Mrs. Brooks, Martinez said. We can do this here or at the station. Lena looked at me. I'm sorry. Please don't leave me. I looked at the woman I married 5 years ago, the woman I trusted, the woman I would have sacrificed everything for, and felt nothing. You weren't wrong about one thing, I said softly. You were wrong about everything else. From the moment you decided to use me instead of loving me. I walked out. Detective Martinez called after me. We'll need your full cooperation. Are you ready? Completely, I said. The divorce finalized 3 months later. Lena pled accepted responsibility to insurance financial scheme and conspiracy, 18 months, low-risk facility, parole eligibility after 12. Price's operation dismantled by the FBI. Dr. Matthew Cole lost his medical license. Maya pled as an accessory, 7 months probation. The townhouse remained mine. I still live there, though I might sell. Too many memories tangled together. Elaine Foster helped me survive the worst. So did Daniel Cruz, who felt guilty about uncovering the truth. Rachel Donovan, the nurse who started it all, called last month. You saved me, she said. Just 3 lines on paper changed everything. I think about Lena sometimes, the woman I married versus the woman who tried to destroy me. How close I came to losing everything because I trusted too much. Mostly, I think about 3:20 a.m. when Rachel Donovan slipped me that note. 3 words that saved my life. Lena thought she had me figured out. She was right about the sacrifice. But I learned she was taking everything, except my ability to survive. If you've made it this far, thank you. Some betrayals teach you who you really are and who the person you thought you knew really is. If this story hit you, subscribe. Some truths are hard to face, but worth hearing.